biochemical, right? There's a lot of chemical processes happening in respiration. That's the reason why we call it respiration is biochemical. But what happens in breathing? Breathing is basically it's a biophysical change or a biophysical process happening. Why physical? Because it's just a physical process whereby we are inhaling and exhaling. So this is the first point of difference between respiration and breathing. Respiration is a biochemical process. Breathing is a biophysical process. Here chemical changes take place. Here physical changes take place. Correct? So this is the first point of difference. Now let's study in detail what happens basically in respiration and what happens in breathing. Now, first let's understand breathing. Breathing is very easy to understand. Inhalation. Uh, Karthik, can you please unmute yourself and tell what is breathing? Bhavya, you
Yes,
had
ma'am.
yeah, hi, good evening. You had requested the other day to cover this particular chapter, na, respiration. So I
Yes,
thought of
ma'am.
covering this chapter today. You said your midterms would be just around the corner on
Yes,
the
ma'am.
27th, if I'm not wrong. So,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, so,
No, ma'am. From 21st. My exam is on 25th of September.
okay, so we'll be covering respiration. So please listen to it carefully, okay? Please be
Okay, ma'am.
alert. Yes,
Yes,
Karthik.
ma'am.
Okay, all right, fine. Unmana, can you tell me what is inhalation?
Ma'am, the taking in of oxygen into our body is called inhalation.
Very good. Then what is exhalation?
Ma'am, the giving out of carbon dioxide from our body, it's called exhalation.
Correct. We will say breathing out, not giving out, breathing out. Breathing
Okay,
out,
ma'am.
breathing out of carbon dioxide is called exhalation. Correct? All right.
Okay,
Fine.
ma'am.
Great. So that is inhalation and exhalation. Okay. So next we will go to, okay, before breathing, let's just finish what is respiration. What happens in respiration? Why do we call it as a biochemical reaction, biochemical process? What happens is that our body. Last time we had studied digestion, remember, and all of you know that we have a lot of glucose into our body. So what happens is that when we breathe in oxygen, which Unmana said, na, that we breathe in oxygen, right? So this oxygen, what it does is that there is a chemical reaction happening in our body. What is this chemical reaction? I'll just write it down so that it's easier for you to understand. See, do you know what is the chemical formula of glucose? It's C6H12.
C6H12O6.
Very good. C6H12O6 is the chemical formula for glucose. Right? Okay, just give me a minute. Let me just take out a whiteboard. It will be easier for me to explain there. See, what happens is that, C6H12O6 is basically glucose. Right? Now, in the presence of oxygen, what is this oxygen that's there in our body which we have inhaled? What would it give out? It would give out 6 molecules of oxygen, sorry, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water, that is H2O, plus energy. This is the chemical reaction for respiration inside our body. Right? So this is glucose. Basically, this is glucose. Glucose, when it comes, why are there so many Bhavya, Kriti? So much of annotation happening. Right? So basically what happens is that when there is glucose in the presence of oxygen, it gives out carbon dioxide, water, and energy. We all know that we all exhale carbon dioxide. And how come water? When we exhale, when you keep your hand in front of your mouth, you will find, a little warm air, as in that's the water vapor. So that's the water, right? And also a little bit of energy, which we utilize in doing all the work. Correct? So that is uh, Bhavya and others, whoever has used annotation, you will have to fine. So that's the process of respiration. Correct? Now going back to the difference. What is the first point? The first difference is basically it is a physical process, as I had discussed. Remember, it's a physical process. So in this physical process, oxygen is taken, carbon dioxide is given out. This is as simple as that. Right? And in respiration, what happens? As I said, it's a biochemical process. So here glucose is oxidized and carbon dioxide, water, and energy is released. So this is a basic difference. Now, breathing occurs outside the cells. Why? How? It is happening in our nostrils, right? So that's why they are saying that it is happening outside the cells. But where does respiration happen? Respiration occurs inside each and every cell of our body. Because each and every cell of our body needs to respire, to in order to prepare energy, to receive energy. So this is the third difference. Now, there is no release of energy in breathing. Breathing is very simple. You just take in oxygen, leave out carbon dioxide. It is There is no release of energy. Whereas in respiration, it is very gradual. It happens over a period of time, and there is energy that is released. Energy is released in the form of, at times ATP. We call it adenosine triphosphate.
ATP, ma'am.
Yes, ATP. So that is ATP. If it's new for others, please to write it down. Adi, adi,
Adenosine triphosphate.
adenosine triphosphate molecules. Okay. So this is ATP, which is basically the energy. In layman's language, we call it energy, and scientifically, we call it ATP. Okay. Now, enzymes are not involved in breathing. Obviously, it's a normal breathing process, inhalation and exhalation. Whereas in respiration, there are enzymes which are involved in this process. There are quite a few enzymes that are required, but then again, this happens at a cellular level, and we do not need to study about these enzymes right now in our class, as in, in class 7, right? You would need to study about it only when you go to a more higher classes. Okay, now coming to aerobic respiration. What is aerobic respiration? Now, scientifically, if you ask me what is aerobic, Priscilla, can you tell me what is aerobic?
Ma'am, I'll just tell what I know, ma'am. Like I learned it.
Hmm?
So, like aerobic is like respiration, a type of respiration which happens in the presence of oxygen.
Correct. So basically, an easier way to remember is aero. Aero means air. Okay, aero means air. And here, an aero. What does an aero here mean? Absence of air. Here, absence of air. Here, air is not present here. Absence of air. So basically, aerobic respiration is respiration that takes place in the presence of air. Here, scientifically, whenever we see air, what does that mean? That means oxygen. So this is here, oxygen is present in the presence of oxygen. In anaerobic, here oxygen is not present. That's
Ma'am,
the yes.
ma'am, so that it is absence of oxygen. So, does it happen in the presence of carbon dioxide?
It can happen in presence of anything else, but it cannot. But respiration is basically, when we talk about respiration, we talk about oxygen. What we have to understand is that here oxygen is not present. In this anaerobic respiration, oxygen is not present. And when all does this happen, where all does this happen, we will discuss it. Okay. Is this clear to all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody has any doubt, please to let me know at this point. Otherwise, we'll be going ahead. I'm just taking it ahead. So aerobic respiration, what happens basically in aerobic respiration? Aerobic respiration is the same that I discussed a little while back, right? Here, basically, the process is called oxidation. Complete oxidation of glucose happens. Glucose is what we discussed. That is C6H12 O6, please get the by heart, the scientific molecule formula for glucose.
Ma'am, I memorized both the aerobic and anaerobic respiration formulas.
Very good. That's excellent.
Ma'am,
You know,
you
yes,
just tell what happened because of technical difficulties. I joined very late, so can you just tell me what happened?
Arna. Okay, Arna. What we were discussing today is respiration and breathing. Okay, okay. Let me just ask your friends. They will be giving you a brief. Bhavya, can you tell me what is breathing? Can you give a brief to Arna? What is breathing? Bhavya. Okay, Karthik. Okay, Karthik will be able to just speak. Unmana, do you know what is breathing? Can you tell what is breathing?
Ma'am, the process in which one inhalation and one exhalation takes place.
Correct, that is breathing. Vatsala, then what is respiration? Vatsala, what is respiration? Karthik, yes, try and use the microphone. Okay, Arna, let me just quickly take you through. Basically, we were studying what is respiration and what is breathing, the difference between respiration and breathing. Respiration is a biochemical process. Breathing is a biophysical process. Breathing, as Unmana said correctly, it is just inhalation and exhalation. You inhale oxygen, you exhale carbon dioxide. Whereas in respiration, what happens is that the oxygen that you have inhaled, right, that is used at the cellular level where all our cells have glucose, right? So this glucose is oxidized and broken down into carbon dioxide, water, and energy.
Hello.
Hello?
Ma'am, I'm able to hear.
You're able to speak, correct? Okay.
Yes,
Karthik,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what are the differences between breathing and respiration? Tell me the first point.
Ma'am, which you have wrote.
Yeah, whatever is written, just read out the first point. The difference between
Okay, ma'am.
breathing and Arna, from where did you join? What was I teaching then?
Ma'am, I don't know. I just joined 2 minutes ago.
Okay, all right, not a problem. Then we'll have to do a complete recap. Okay, Karthik, go ahead.
Breathing. It is only a physical process in which oxygen is taken in and carbon dioxide is given out.
Correct.
Respiration.
Yeah. So this is breathing is physical, and respiration is
Chemical.
chemical. So this is a chemical process, as we discussed. This is the first point of difference. What is
Okay,
the
ma'am.
second point of difference? Breathing just happens in our nostrils. So this is outside. This is outside the cells. Where does respiration happen? Respiration happens at a cellular level. So this is inside the cells. Okay. Now third, there is no release of energy. Energy is not released while breathing. You are simply breathing in oxygen, breathing out carbon dioxide. Simple. Whereas in respiration, what happens? See, in respiration, energy is released, which we also call as the ATP, which Priscilla very correctly said that it is adenosine triphosphate. Tri means three phosphates. It has got three molecules of phosphate. Okay. And the fourth point is here enzymes are not involved. Obviously, it's a simple breathing. Oxygen low, carbon dioxide chodo. Whereas in respiration, there are certain enzymes that are used, that are required at every cell. Every cell, we have trillions of cells in our body. So every cells require, they need to undergo respiration. So there are enzymes which are needed for the respiration to happen. Okay. So this is what we discussed. And then we came to two kinds of respiration. This is aerobic respiration and anaerobic. What is the meaning of aero? Aero means air. That means oxygen. So this kind of respiration happens in the presence of air. And what is anaero? Anaero means
It doesn't happen in the presence
yeah,
of air. There's no air.
exactly, absence of oxygen, no air, right? Now, how does it happen? When does it happen? We will discuss about it. So this is where you had left. Okay, here,
Okay, ma'am. Thank
what?
you, ma'am.
Yeah, thanks, Arna. Welcome. So here, the oxygen that we inhaled, yeah, that oxygen is used up here. It acts on glucose. The chemical formula, again, I'm writing for glucose is C6H12O6. And also 6 molecules of oxygen are required to make 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of H2O plus energy.
Ma'am,
This is,
38 ATP.
yeah, we can also write ATP, right? So this is basically the chemical formula for respiration. This keeps on happening in our body. This is a never ending process which keeps on happening in our body throughout, from the time we have taken birth till the time we'll be alive. Respiration at every cellular level will keep on happening. Okay, breathing and respiration, the pumping of heart, these are certain things which will keep on happening in our body, right? Whereas this is, so we had oxygen here. Now aerobic respiration. Okay, Arna, can you give me an example of aerobic respiration? Arna, can you give me an example of aerobic respiration?
Breathing.
No, we just now discussed breathing is different, respiration is different.
Okay, ma'am. Sorry. Ma'am,
So
I
where,
actually don't know.
okay, all right, not a problem. Karthik, did you log in through 2 devices? Okay, that's the reason why you got your audio. Okay. Said Nasruddin, can you please give me an example of aerobic respiration? Said Nasruddin. Yes, human beings, animals, birds, mostly all of them, especially the multicellular organisms, as in multicellular organisms, as in under the animal kingdom. All of them have aerobic respiration, as in all of us undergo aerobic respiration. Got it, Anna? Breathing is very much different from aerobic respiration. Breathing is just a physical process. We are taking in air from our nostrils and we are leaving out air also, or carbon dioxide also, from our nostrils or from our mouth. That is just a simple breathing. But respiration is a little more complex. So we are studying respiration now. Okay. Yes, Priscilla, you're right. Anaerobic respiration is correct. Now, Bhavya, are you there? Bhavya, can you explain what is anaerobic respiration? So, if you see anaerobic respiration, I'll just give you a classic example. What happens is that most of you at home, you must have seen your mother. When she makes idli or dosa, what she does is that she makes the batter in the morning and she keeps it at night, overnight, for fermentation, right? So, what happens basically during fermentation? Can any of you tell me what is the process that happens here?
Ma'am, the bacteria like reproduces very fast.
That is one thing. That is one thing. But how is this fermentation process happening? Of course, bacteria produces very fast, but what's happening? What is the chemical change happening?
Ma'am, I don't know chemical, but I know physical.
Yeah. So physically, obviously, chemical changes are changes which are invisible, so we cannot see it, right? We only see the end result. So what is happening is basically this. This is what is happening inside. This change is happening inside. So this rice, okay, the rice that your mother uses for making idli, dosa, whatever. What is rice? Rice is basically
And
starch.
starch.
No, starch, yes. What is starch? It can be simplified into
Like a line of glucose molecule.
very good. It is basically a line of glucose. So here you get the glucose, right? And you must have seen when your mother takes the vessel, the batter is put, she covers it with a lid. Why? She will stop the contact of air. She will not allow oxygen to come in. So she has stopped the contact of air by keep putting a lid on the vessel. So absence of oxygen, oxygen is not there. Anaerobic oxidation, anaerobic respiration is happening. So then what happens? You have to give it some time. As we discussed, anaerobic respiration takes a long time, 8 hours, 10 hours. So morning when you open the lid, what happens? You will find a little bit of you. Of course, you will find fermentation, which is actually which is actually a kind of this
Alcohol?
example. Yes, it is basically a kind of alcohol, right?
Are we
And
consuming alcohol?
it is a see rice has alcohol. If you keep rice overnight, there is a certain amount of alcohol in it. Of course, there's a certain amount of alcohol, but the percentage of alcohol is like
Ma'am,
0.001% or something like that.
ma'am,
It's
if
minimal.
humans uh, if humans carry out anaerobic respiration, then
Mhm.
how do people die with short of breath
See,
or oxygen?
that is a physical process that happens when there is shortage of oxygen, when you're not breathing properly, when
That's
someone is
what,
not
ma'am. But like for a
because
15-20 minutes, if some person is not serious but has a bad condition and needs oxygen, but he doesn't get it for at least 5-10 minutes. Why does
see,
the
five ten
person sit
minutes 5-10 minutes
ten
will
fifteen
not be a
minutes? I mean,
problem. 5-10 minutes will not be that much of a problem, but you know what happens is that the oxygen is is not reaching the lungs, through the trachea. The oxygen is not reaching the lungs, and once the oxygen is not reaching the lungs, it is unable to provide oxygen to the heart and to the other body, and especially to the brain. So slowly, what happens? All the organs are getting affected because they are deficient in oxygen. So slowly, all the organs will give up. All the organs will give up. And especially if the heart
okay,
and the brain gives up, then what will happen?
um, the person will die.
Ah, and
But
can you
then,
imagine not giving oxygen to the heart for 5 minutes? It's quite a thing, huh? We don't have oxygen, that much oxygen reserved in our body.
Ma'am,
You know,
actually, the
yes,
last amount of person can live without oxygen is 8 minutes. But
ah,
by the time 8 minutes, all your organs will start failing.
yeah, that is the reason because especially our heart and brain needs a lot of oxygen. Just imagine our heart is pumping every second. How will it function without oxygen?
ma'am, I know that, but like you said that it produce, like it carries out energy.
Hmm?
The end results of anaerobic respiration is also energy. So it
Yes.
can make the person last for like a person can live without breath for 5-6 minutes.
So this kind of energy will not be. We need oxygen. We don't need energy then. Our body requires
Okay, ma'am.
oxygen, right? So energy will not help us. Energy will only help us to do work, but we don't need to do any work. We need oxygen then. All right. Okay. See, basically, yeah. Who's this?
Ma'am
Karthik?
Karthik.
Yeah. Tell
Ma'am,
me.
our heart pumps 72 times a minute.
Yes, that's our pulse rate. Correct. Yes. You're right. Okay. So now going back to anaerobic respiration, one very classic example that I can give is many of you must have heard, no, we get wine from grapes, right? Wine is an
Yes,
alcoholic.
ma'am.
Wine is a alcoholic beverage, right? Wine is an alcoholic beverage. How do such sweet grapes convert into
Ma'am, they
such
get fermented, no, ma'am.
exactly, they get fermented. So what is this entire chemical process of fermentation? This is the process. This is the process of fermentation. Where glucose, what do? They take the juice of glucose. First of all, the grapes are crushed, they are stomped, through feet and through machine, they're stomped properly. After the stomping process is done, then they take the juice. So what is juice? Juice is basically glucose or maybe fructose, simple glucose, simple sugars. Then they will keep a tight, they will they will cover the lid with vessel container. These are huge things happening in factories. So they have huge machineries whereby they will cover the container with tight lids, and they will not allow oxygen to enter at all. So if oxygen does not happen, what will happen? Certain small microbial, you know, bacterial or microbial action will start happening. That is fermentation. And after a few months, not even days, not even weeks, maybe after 5 to 6 weeks, or maybe after a month too, then you will get a beautiful purple color beverage, which is actually wine. This takes time to happen, right? Plus it will also emit little bit of carbon dioxide gas, which they have a certain setup through which they would keep this gas aside and just take out the pure wine from there. So this is also basically a process whereby anaerobic respiration happens, right? Similarly, yeast is a bacteria. How many of you have seen the manufacturing of bread?
I don't know, ma'am. I just know that they make the dough and they bake it. That's it.
Okay, so basically to make the dough they need yeast. What is yeast? What is yeast?
Not powder.
It is powder, of course. We get it in the form of a powder, but yeast is actually
It's a bacteria.
it is a unicellular organism. It is a unicellular organism which is very useful to us. And it reproduces at lightning speed. It reproduces so fast. It reproduces through a process called budding. We had studied about budding, no, in a few classes. So what
Okay, I
happens
don't
is
think
that,
so.
okay, what happens is that, for example, you take some yeast powder. I'll tell you how this happens. You take some yeast powder, you know, add it to a little bowl of lukewarm water. What you will add? Lukewarm water. And add a little bit of sugar, very little sugar. Why sugar?
Some glucose.
Very good, because sugar is glucose. The yeast has to thrive on something. So you take water, yeast, and sugar, and then keep it covered for maybe 5 minutes. So no supply of oxygen. You have cut the contact with oxygen. You would see in 5 minutes the entire glass is filled up. In fact, it has frothed, and at times it also falls down. The yeast has grown at a magnificent pace. At a magnificent pace it grows. It through budding it swells up. Then what they do is that they took they add wheat, as in flour. They add flour, water, and then they add this yeast solution to this, and then they add they mix all of them together to form a dough. So what is this dough? This dough is rich in yeast. And they will keep this dough like a ball. They will make a round ball of this dough, and they'll keep it for 20 minutes again, covered with a box or covered with a lid.
Ma'am,
All right. So what happens is that after 20 minutes the dough will increase in size. How? Again, the yeast multiplies here into several times, x times. So that is how through anaerobic respiration, that is in the absence of oxygen, here the entire process of fermentation takes place. This is the entire process. Okay? So this is anaerobic respiration. I have given you three sets of examples. I've given you the example of wine, the example of yeast, and the example of idli dosa batter. Is it clear? I'm sure it should be clear to all of you.